Okay, you want to talk about Volkswagen?
Yeah.
And their struggles in the electric vehicle market, specifically their software troubles. It's a fascinating story.
It is
how a company known for precision engineering could stumble so badly with something as intangible as software.
Well, I think what's interesting here is that Volkswagen's struggles, they reveal a deeper issue, a clash of cultures. They essentially tried to force fit their old school industrial mindset onto the fast-paced world of software development, and it backfired spectacularly.
The article we're diving into is called Volkswagen's 20 billion software disaster.
Wow.
How poor engineering crippled the German giant.
Oof.
That's a pretty hefty price tag, don't you think?
It is, and it raises a critical question. How did a company like Volkswagen, with all its resources and expertise, end up in this situation?
Well, the article argues that Volkswagen's downfall started with their software division, Cariad.
Right.
They poured billions into it, hoping to create this in-house tech powerhouse that would rival companies like Tesla. But it seems like it turned into more of a money pit.
Yeah, Cariad was supposed to be Volkswagen's answer to the software challenge. But instead of streamlining their development process, it became a bottleneck, riddled with delays, glitches, and budget overruns.
So what went wrong? Was it just a matter of bad management, or was there something more fundamental at play?
The article points to a deeper cultural issue. Volkswagen's deeply ingrained hierarchical structure and their reliance on traditional manufacturing principles simply didn't translate well to the world of software development.
So they were essentially trying to build software like they build cars.
Exactly. They were used to long development cycles, rigid planning, and a top-down approach, which is the opposite of what's needed in the agile, fast-paced world of software.
It's almost like they tried teaching a dinosaur to tap dance.
Yeah.
Not exactly a recipe for success.
Precisely. Software development requires a different kind of mindset, a culture that embraces flexibility, rapid iteration, and constant feedback, which is something Volkswagen struggled to grasp.
And their struggles with Cariad really impacted their entire EV strategy, didn't they?
They did.
The article mentioned delays to their flagship ID.3 and ID.4 models. Even their luxury brands like Audi and Porsche were affected.
The delays and glitches caused by Cariad had a cascading effect across Volkswagen's entire product lineup. They couldn't launch new models on time, and the ones they did launch were plagued with software problems.
So customers were getting cars with buggy software and outdated features.
Not exactly what you'd expect from a company like Volkswagen, is it?
It was a major blow to their reputation, especially at a time when they were trying to establish themselves as a leader in the EV market. They ended up losing ground to competitors like Tesla, who had already embraced a software-first approach.
The article mentions Tesla and BYD a few times, contrasting their software-centric approach with Volkswagen's struggles. Can you elaborate on what they were doing differently?
Well, Tesla, from the very beginning, understood that software was the key to the future of cars. They built their vehicles around a centralized software platform, constantly pushing over-the-air updates and adding new features.
So their cars were essentially giant smartphones on wheels, always evolving and improving.
Exactly.
Wow.
And BYD, a Chinese automaker, has also been successful with their software strategy.
They've focused on creating a seamless user experience, integrating everything from infotainment to navigation into a single cohesive system.
So both Tesla and BYD were treating software as a core competency, not just an add-on.
And that's something Volkswagen missed. They saw software as a necessary evil, something they had to do to keep up with the competition, but they didn't fully understand its transformative potential.
It's amazing how this difference in mindset can have such a huge impact.
It can.
So what did Volkswagen do when they realized Cariad wasn't working? They didn't just give up, did they?
No, they tried to fix it internally. They restructured Cariad, brought in new leadership, and even cut thousands of jobs.
Oh, wow.
But none of these measures address the root of the problem, their cultural resistance to a software-first approach.
So it was like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg.
Exactly. They were treating the symptoms, not the cause.
And eventually they realized they needed outside help, which led them to their partnership with Rivian.
The Rivian partnership is a fascinating turn of events.
It is.
A giant, like, Volkswagen turning to a relative newcomer for help with software.
Wow.
It's a clear admission that they were out of their depth.
It's almost like they were saying, we can't beat them, so we might as well join them.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a sign of the changing times in the automotive industry.
Yeah.
The old rules no longer apply.
Right.
Software is now the key differentiator, and Volkswagen was forced to acknowledge that.
But why Rivian?
Wow.
What made them such an attractive partner?
Rivian, despite being a startup, has built a reputation for its cutting-edge software and its agile development processes. They're known for their rapid innovation, their ability to push updates quickly, and their focus on creating a seamless user experience.
It's that unicorn mindset the article talked about, being nimble and fast-moving, like a tech company, not a lumbering industrial giant.
Exactly. And that's what Volkswagen was hoping to tap into.
Right.
They needed Rivian's expertise to help them bridge the gap between their traditional manufacturing culture and the fast-paced world of software.
It's a bold move, isn't it?
It is.
Partnering with a potential competitor and essentially admitting that they can't do it on their own.
Yeah, it's a high-risk, high-reward strategy.
Right.
If it works, Volkswagen could potentially leapfrog ahead of the competition.
Wow.
But if it fails, the consequences could be even more disastrous.
So this partnership is essentially Volkswagen's Hail Mary, their last chance to catch up in the EV race.
It's certainly a pivotal moment for them.
Yeah.
They're betting big on Rivian's ability to help them transform their software capabilities and their entire corporate culture.
It's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
It is.
But before we dive into the details of the partnership, I want to take a step back and look at the broader implications of Volkswagen's software struggles.
Right.
What can other companies learn from their mistakes?
Well, I think Volkswagen's story is a cautionary tale for any company that's underestimating the importance of software in the digital age.
Yeah.
It's no longer a back office function or an afterthought. It's the core of many businesses, the driving force behind innovation and growth.
So it's not just about having a website or an app.
No.
It's about embedding software into the very DNA of your company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about having a software-first mindset.
Okay.
Understanding that software is not just a tool, but a strategic asset that can make or break your business.
And this applies to every industry, not just automotive.
Absolutely. From healthcare and finance.
Retail and manufacturing.
Right.
Software is transforming the way we live, work, and interact with the world.
Yeah.
Companies that ignore this reality do so at their own peril.
Volkswagen's struggles highlight the dangers of clinging to outdated approaches and resisting change. Yeah. They were so focused on their past successes that they failed to see the future that was coming.
Their story is a reminder that no company, no matter how large or successful, is immune to disruption.
Yeah.
The digital revolution is happening whether we like it or not.
Right.
And the companies that embrace it will be the ones that thrive.
So what specific steps can companies take to avoid becoming the next Volkswagen? What can they do to ensure they don't fall behind in this software-driven world?
First and foremost, they need to develop a deep understanding of the role software plays in their industry and their business model.
Right.
They need to identify the key software trends
that are shaping their market and develop a strategy for how to leverage them.
So it's about having a clear vision for how software can drive innovation and create value.
Exactly. And it's about being proactive, not reactive.
Okay.
Waiting to see what your competitors do is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
You need to be the one setting the pace, not following it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So once you have a vision, what's next? How do you actually go about building a software-first culture?
Well, it starts with leadership.
Okay.
The executives need to be fully committed to the transformation.
Yeah.
And they need to communicate that commitment clearly to the rest of the organization.
So it's not just about throwing money at the problem.
No.
It's about creating a culture where everyone understands the importance of software and is empowered to contribute.
Exactly. You need to break down silos, foster collaboration between different teams, and create a culture
of experimentation and continuous learning.
That sounds like a pretty big cultural shift.
It is.
Especially for a company like Volkswagen that's steeped in tradition and hierarchy.
It is, and it's not something that happens overnight.
Right.
It takes time, effort, and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
But the rewards can be significant, right?
They can.
If you can successfully build a software-first culture, you can unlock a whole new level of innovation and agility.
Absolutely. You can create products and services that are more customer-centric, more responsive to market changes, and more resilient in the face of disruption.
So it's not just about avoiding failure. It's about creating a future where software is a source of competitive advantage.
Exactly. And that's the lesson that Volkswagen learned the hard way. Yeah. They paid a hefty price for their resistance to change and their failure to embrace the software revolution. But their story can serve as a valuable lesson for other companies.
It can.
A reminder that the digital age is here and the companies that adapt will be the ones that thrive.
That's right.
So let's dive deeper into Volkswagen's journey and see how their software struggles unfolded.
Okay.
We'll explore the specific challenges they faced, the decisions they made, and the lessons that can be learned from their experience.
We'll start by examining the early days of their EV strategy, their ambitious plans for Cariad, and the cultural clashes that ultimately led to their downfall.
And we'll analyze their partnership with Rivian, exploring the potential benefits and the potential pitfalls of this high-stakes collaboration.
It'll be interesting.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll have a clear understanding of how Volkswagen's software saga unfolded and what other companies can do to avoid making the same mistakes.
Good advice.
So, buckle up, because we're about to take a deep dive into the world of automotive software, corporate culture, and the challenges of navigating the digital revolution.
And who knows?
Yeah.
We might even uncover some surprising insights along the way.
All right, let's jump in.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've talked about the big picture, about this clash between the old way of doing things and the demands of this new software-driven world.
Right.
But let's zoom in on where the rubber really meets the road, how Volkswagen tried to transform their factories to crank out these electric vehicles.
Yeah, that's where the real drama unfolded, I think. It's not just about swapping out combustion engines for battery. It's about rethinking the entire manufacturing process, recognizing that software is now the nervous system of the car.
I'm picturing those assembly lines, where robots have been welding and bolting parts together for decades.
Yeah.
Now, suddenly, it's not just about the physical pieces, but the invisible code that makes everything work.
Precisely. And the article reveals that Volkswagen approached this transformation with a somewhat blinkered vision.
Yeah.
They focused heavily on scaling up production, building these massive EV factories.
Right.
But they underestimated the crucial role software would play.
So they had the hardware side of things figured out, but the software side was lagging behind.
Exactly. They were churning out these sleek electric cars, but the software that controlled everything from the battery management to the infotainment system was riddled with glitches and delays.
Imagine you buy a brand new EV, excited about all the cool tech features, and then the navigation system keeps crashing or the battery range is wildly inaccurate.
Yeah.
That wouldn't exactly inspire confidence, would it?
Not at all. Yeah. And that's what Volkswagen was facing. Disgruntled customers, negative press, and a growing realization that their software shortcomings were jeopardizing their entire EV strategy.
So while they were busy building these impressive gigafactories, they were stumbling on something as seemingly basic as software.
Right. It's almost like a mismatch of priorities.
You could say that. Their industrial mindset, their focus on tangible production metrics blinded them to the crucial role intangible software plays in a modern connected vehicle.
The article draws a comparison with Tesla,
yeah,
highlighting their early and aggressive focus on building software expertise.
Right. Tesla took a completely different approach from the outset.
Okay.
They didn't just see software as a component of the car.
Mm-hmm.
They saw the car itself as a software platform, constantly evolving and improving through over-the-air updates.
It's like the difference between buying a CD
Yeah.
and subscribing to a streaming service.
Right.
One is static, the other is constantly evolving.
A perfect analogy. Tesla understood that the real value of an electric vehicle lies in its software capability, its ability to learn, adapt,
and provide a seamless, personalized experience.
And Volkswagen, with their traditional mindset, was stuck in the CD era.
You could say
while Tesla was already streaming ahead.
And the article points to specific examples where Volkswagen's software woes caused real-world problems.
Okay.
For instance, some owners of the VW Tiguan found themselves struggling with basic functions like key pairing and infotainment systems.
Hold on, even key pairing. That's something we take for granted these days.
Exactly. But even these seemingly simple functions rely on complex software systems.
Right.
And when those systems are buggy or poorly designed, it creates a ripple effect across the entire user experience.
It's a death by 1,000 cuts scenario, isn't it?
It is.
Each small glitch erodes the customer's trust and ultimately damages the brand's reputation.
Precisely. And the problems extended beyond Volkswagen's mass market models. Their premium brands, Audi and Porsche, were also impacted by the software debacle.
Wait, even the luxury brands were affected?
Yeah.
I thought those were supposed to be the crown jewels of the Volkswagen Group.
They were.
Yeah.
But even these prestigious marques couldn't escape the software woes.
Oh, wow.
The launch of Audi's Q6 e-tron was repeatedly postponed, and Porsche's Macan EV, a flagship model, was pushed back, all because Cariad, the software division, couldn't deliver a stable platform.
Wow, it's like a domino effect.
It is.
One software failure triggering a chain reaction across the entire company.
That's the danger of underestimating the importance of software. It's no longer a peripheral concern.
All right.
It's the foundation upon which everything else is built.
So what did Volkswagen do when they realized the extent of the problem?
Right.
Did they double down on Cariad, trying to fix it from within?
They tried, but as we discussed earlier, they mainly focused on superficial changes, restructuring, bringing in new management, those kinds of things.
But the core issue, the cultural mismatch, remained unaddressed.
Exactly.
It's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
Right.
You're not solving the fundamental problem.
You're not.
And this leads us back to the Rivian partnership, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
The moment when Volkswagen essentially threw in the towel and said, we need outside help.
The Rivian partnership is a fascinating study in contrasts.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have Volkswagen, this industrial behemoth steeped in tradition.
Right.
And on the other hand, you have Rivian, this nimble startup disrupting the industry with its software-first approach.
It's almost a metaphor for the larger forces at play in the automotive world, isn't it?
It is.
The old guard versus the new, the industrial versus the digital.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that in this rapidly evolving landscape, no company, no matter how large or established, is immune to disruption.
So let's dive into this partnership. What exactly were Volkswagen hoping to achieve by joining forces with Rivian?
They were hoping to gain access to Rivian's software expertise, their agile development processes, and their ability to deliver a seamless, connected car experience.
It's like they were saying, teach us how to be more like you. Teach us how to think like a tech company, not a car company.
Precisely. Yeah. They needed Rivian to help them bridge the cultural gap, to inject some of that unicorn mindset into their DNA.
But was it just about acquiring technical skills? Or was there something more profound at play, a recognition that they needed to fundamentally change their way of thinking?
I think it was both. They needed the technical skills, of course, but they also needed a cultural transfusion. They needed to understand how a company like Rivian operates, how they make decisions, how they prioritize software, how they foster innovation.
It's almost like an apprenticeship, isn't it?
It is.
The old master learning from the young apprentice.
That's a good analogy, and it highlights the humility that Volkswagen had to display in this situation. They had to admit that they didn't have all the answers.
Yeah.
They needed to learn from a company that was, in many ways, their opposite.
Yeah. So what were the specific terms of this partnership? What was Rivian bringing to the table?
Rivian was providing Volkswagen with access to their software platform, their engineering expertise, and their development processes. They were essentially going to help Volkswagen build a new software stack for their electric vehicles.
Okay, so they were essentially outsourcing their software development to Rivian.
Yeah, you could say that.
Wasn't that a bit risky?
Well,
giving up control of such a critical part of their business?
It was a calculated risk, but they were running out of options. Their own software division, Cariad, had failed to deliver, and they needed to act quickly if they wanted to remain competitive in the rapidly evolving EV market.
So is it a desperate measure?
Well,
a last-ditch attempt to catch up.
You could say that, but it was also a sign of their willingness to adapt, to acknowledge their shortcomings, and seek help from an unlikely source.
It's a fascinating example of how the traditional automotive hierarchy is being upended by the digital revolution. The old giants are now looking to the upstarts for guidance.
And it underscores the importance of agility and adaptability in this new landscape. The companies that are willing to learn, to change, to embrace new ways of thinking will be the ones that succeed.
So how did this partnership actually work in practice? Did Rivian engineers move into Volkswagen's headquarters?
Wow.
Was there a lot of collaboration and knowledge sharing?
The details of the collaboration are still somewhat shrouded in secrecy. But the article suggests that it involved a combination of technology transfer, joint development projects, and cultural exchange programs.
So it wasn't just about Rivian handing over their code and saying, here you go, figure it out.
No.
It was a more collaborative process aimed at building a deeper understanding of how Rivian approaches software development.
Exactly.
Sarah.
Volkswagen recognized that they needed to learn not just what Rivian does, but how they do it. They needed to absorb some of that startup DNA, that agile mindset, if they wanted to truly transform their own culture.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It suggests that they weren't just looking for a quick fix.
No.
They were looking for a long-term solution, a way to fundamentally change the way they approach software.
And that's the key to successful digital transformation. It's not just about adopting new technologies or hiring new people. It's about changing the way you think, the way you operate, the way you make decisions.
But wasn't there a risk of cultural clashes?
Well,
two companies with such different backgrounds and ways of working trying to merge their approaches.
Absolutely. There's always a risk of friction when two cultures collide. But the article suggests that both companies were committed to making the partnership work. They recognized that they had a lot to learn from each other, and they were willing to compromise.
So it was a two-way street.
Yeah.
Rivian was learning from Volkswagen's experience in mass production and global distribution, while Volkswagen was learning from Rivian's agility and software expertise.
Exactly. It was a symbiotic relationship. Each company bringing its own strengths to the table.
And this kind of cross-pollination of ideas and approaches is becoming increasingly common in the automotive world, isn't it?
It is.
We're seeing more and more partnerships between traditional automakers and tech companies.
It's a sign of the times. The lines between industries are blurring, and the companies that can bridge those gaps, that can embrace collaboration and knowledge sharing, will be the ones that thrive in the long run.
So this partnership with Rivian wasn't just about fixing Volkswagen's software problems.
No.
It was about something bigger. About positioning themselves for the future. About becoming a truly digital company.
Exactly. And it was a bold move. A recognition that they couldn't do it alone. They needed to embrace the expertise of a company that was born in the digital age, that understood the power of software, and that had built a culture of innovation and agility from the ground up.
But was it a successful move? Did this partnership actually deliver on its promise? Did Volkswagen manage to turn things around and catch up with their competitors?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And it's one that we'll explore in more detail in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll examine the results of the partnership, the challenges they faced, and the ultimate impact it had on Volkswagen's EV strategy.
Okay, so we're leaving our listeners on a bit of cliffhanger here.
We are.
But that's the beauty of a deep dive, isn't it?
I think so.
It's about peeling back the layers, uncovering the complexities, and revealing the insights that might not be immediately apparent.
Exactly. And the Volkswagen story is a perfect example of that. It's a complex tale of ambition, missteps, and ultimately a recognition that the old rules no longer apply in the digital age.
So stay tuned as we delve into the final chapter of Volkswagen's software saga.
Sounds good.
We'll explore the outcomes of their partnership with Rivian, the lessons they learned, and the lasting impact it had on their journey to becoming a software-driven company.
Right.
All right. We're back and ready to wrap up this deep dive into Volkswagen's software saga. We've seen how their initial ambitions with Cariad backfired, forcing them into this unlikely partnership with Rivian.
Right.
But is this partnership actually the silver bullet they were hoping for?
Well, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
The article doesn't give us a definitive answer.
Okay.
It's still a bit early for that.
Right.
But it does offer some intriguing clues and hints at both the potential benefits and the potential pitfalls of this collaboration.
So it's not a simple success or failure story.
No.
There are nuances here, complexities that we need to unravel.
Exactly. It's a dynamic situation with a lot of moving parts.
Right.
And remember, this partnership is playing out against a backdrop of intense competition in the EV market. Yeah. Everyone is vying for dominance, and software is increasingly the key battleground.
Okay, so with that context in mind, what does the article tell us about the early outcomes of this partnership?
Well,
did Volkswagen manage to absorb any of that Rivian magic, that elusive unicorn mindset?
There are signs that the partnership is having some positive effects.
Okay.
The article mentions that Volkswagen has started to adopt some of Rivian's agile development practices, shifting away from their traditional waterfall approach.
So they're starting to move faster, iterate more quickly, embrace that feedback loop we talked about.
Yes, and that's a significant cultural shift for a company like Volkswagen, remember.
Right.
It's a sign that they're willing to learn and adapt, even if it means challenging, deeply ingrained ways of working.
But changing culture isn't easy, is it?
It's not.
Especially in a company as large and complex as Volkswagen.
Right.
There's bound to be resistance, pushback from those who are comfortable with the old ways.
Absolutely. Cultural transformation takes time, effort, and consistent leadership.
Right.
It's not something you can achieve overnight with a few workshops and motivational speeches.
So it's an ongoing process, a journey rather than a destination.
Yeah.
And we're still in the early stages of that journey with Volkswagen Rivian.
Precisely. The article hints at some of the challenges they're facing.
Okay.
Like integrating Rivian's technology into Volkswagen's existing systems. Yeah. Which is a massive undertaking.
I can imagine. You're essentially trying to merge two different worlds.
Right.
Two different technological ecosystems. And that's bound to create friction.
It is.
And then there are the cultural differences we talked about earlier, remember. Those different ways of working, different decision-making processes, those can create tension and slow things down.
They can.
So it's not a seamless integration.
No.
There are bumps along the road, and those bumps could potentially derail the whole thing.
There's always that risk.
Right.
But the article suggests that both companies are aware of these challenges.
Okay.
And are working actively to address them.
Okay, so they're not naive about the complexities involved.
No.
They're going into this with their eyes open.
Right.
And hopefully with a plan to navigate those potential pitfalls.
That seems to be the case. The article highlights the importance of open communication, clear goals, and a shared vision for the partnership to succeed.
So it's not just about technology. It's about people.
It is.
About building relationships, about establishing trust and mutual respect.
Exactly. And that's something that often gets overlooked in these kinds of partnerships. People focus on the technical aspects, but the human element is just as crucial.
All right. So we've talked about the early signs, the challenges, the cultural dynamics.
Yeah.
But what about the bottom line?
Oh,
Has this partnership actually moved the needle for Volkswagen in the EV market?
It's too early to say for sure.
Right.
The article doesn't provide concrete sales figures or market share data.
Right.
But it does suggest that the partnership is starting to bear fruit.
Okay, so no dramatic turnaround yet.
Not yet.
But there are glimmers of hope.
Right.
Signs that they might be heading in the right direction.
That's how I'd interpret it.
Okay.
The article mentions that some of the newer Volkswagen models, those that have incorporated Rivian's technology, are receiving positive reviews for their software experience.
So the customers are noticing a difference.
Yeah.
Glitches are disappearing. The user interfaces are smoother. The overall experience is improving.
That seems to be the trend.
Okay.
And that's a crucial step, remember?
Right.
Because ultimately it's the customers who decide whether a car is a success or failure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if Volkswagen can consistently deliver a positive software experience, it could go a long way towards rebuilding their reputation and gaining ground in the EV market.
And don't forget the halo effect.
Yeah.
If the software in their mass market models improves, it could boost the perception of their luxury brands, like Audi and Porsche as well.
Right. It's all interconnected. A rising tide lifts all boats, as they say.
It does.
But even if the software improves, there's still the question of whether they can truly catch up with the likes of Tesla.
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Tesla has a significant head start.
Right.
They've built a powerful brand. And they have a loyal customer base.
And they're constantly innovating, pushing the boundaries of what's possible with software and electric vehicles.
They are. Volkswagen is playing catch-up.
Yeah.
And it's a tough game to win.
Right.
But the partnership with Rivian has given them a fighting chance. It's injected some much-needed agility into their development process, and it's exposed them to new ways of thinking.
So it's not just about catching up with Tesla.
Yeah.
It's about becoming a different kind of company, a company that's truly built for the digital age.
Exactly. And that's perhaps the most important lesson to be learned from Volkswagen's software saga.
Right.
It's not enough to simply add software to your existing products or processes. You need to fundamentally change your mindset, your culture, your entire approach to business.
So it's a holistic transformation, a deep dive into the essence of what it means to be a software-driven company.
It is.
Well, this deep dive has certainly given us a lot to think about.
It has.
It's a reminder that software is no longer a niche concern. It's the driving force behind innovation and disruption in every industry.
And it's a cautionary tale
Right.
for any company that's underestimating the importance of software, that's clinging to outdated approaches, that's resisting the need for cultural change.
Volkswagen's story shows us that even the biggest companies, the most established players, can stumble when they fail to adapt to the digital revolution.
But it also shows us that it's possible to course correct, to learn from your mistakes, to embrace new ways of working. And that's ultimately a message of hope, a reminder that even in the face of disruption, there's always the potential for renewal and reinvention.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Volkswagen software saga.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has.
Exploring the complexities of corporate culture, the power of software, and the challenges of navigating the digital revolution.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope you've gained some valuable insights along the way.
We do.
Remember, the world of software is constantly evolving, and the only way to stay ahead is to keep learning, keep adapting, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe to The Forge of Unicorns to stay up to date with our latest episodes.